I'm Ethan Parker, 35, founder of ParkerTech Solutions. 10 years of sweat and sacrifice turned my garage startup into a $200 million tech empire. Last month, at our anniversary gala, my parents clinked their champagne glasses, silencing the room. We're proud to announce our daughter Megan as the new CEO. Ethan was just a builder. My stomach dropped as applause erupted. I didn't argue. I made one call. When we met again, their faces went pale. They never saw it coming. Before I dive deeper into this story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe if you've ever been blindsided by family. Trust me, what happened next will make your jaw drop. Growing up in Portland, I was always the practical one. My father Richard, a corporate attorney, and mother Diane, a marketing executive, had clear expectations for their children. My sister Megan, 3 years younger, was their pride and joy from the beginning. She had my mother's charm and my father's confidence, while I inherited their work ethic but none of the spotlight. When Megan brought home B- grades, they celebrated her effort. When I earned straight A's, they simply nodded and asked why I wasn't involved in more extracurriculars. Colleges want well-rounded students, Ethan, my father would lecture. Meanwhile, Megan's dance recitals and social committee events became family pilgrimages, with relatives summoned from 3 states away to witness her performances. Don't get me wrong, I loved my sister. We weren't enemies, we just existed in different orbits. She was the family star, and I was the reliable planet that maintained its course without requiring attention. In college, I majored in computer science and business, working part-time jobs to help with expenses despite my parents' comfortable income. Building character, my father called it. Megan attended the same university 2 years later on a legacy scholarship my parents arranged through donations. She changed majors 3 times, eventually settling on communications because it offered the most flexibility. After graduation, I worked for 3 tech startups in 5 years, absorbing everything I could about the industry. Nights and weekends, I coded my own projects, searching for the right idea. Megan graduated and moved back home, taking a series of marketing internships that never quite developed into careers. She's finding herself, my mother would explain at family gatherings. The spark for ParkerTech came during my time at Cloud Matrix, a promising startup that self-destructed due to poor management. Their customer management system had potential, but the execution was fatally flawed. I could see a better way, a more intuitive, scalable approach that would integrate seamlessly with existing business infrastructure. I outlined my vision to my parents over Sunday dinner, hoping for encouragement, or perhaps a small investment. My father skimmed my business plan while my mother served dessert. Sounds risky, he concluded, passing the folder back. The tech sector is oversaturated. Have you considered getting an MBA first? Megan glanced at my diagrams. The logo needs work. It's not memorable. I withdrew my savings, $10,000 from 5 years of frugal living, and set up in my apartment's spare bedroom. 12-hour days became 16-hour marathons. I lived on ramen and coffee, coding until my vision blurred, then sleeping 4 hours before starting again. Weekends disappeared. Friends stopped calling. I missed 2 family Christmases developing the prototype. 6 months in, I secured my first client, a local insurance company willing to take a chance on my customer management platform. Their testimonial led to 2 more clients, then 5, then 12. I hired my first employee, Jackson, a brilliant developer I'd worked with at Cloud Matrix. We moved operations to a tiny office above a Thai restaurant, where the rent was cheap and the lunch specials sustained us through crunch periods. You're throwing away your potential, my father commented when I missed a family vacation to finish a major client installation. My mother added, we just worry you're isolating yourself for something that might not work out. Megan had just started a social media coordinator position that month, her 5th job in 2 years. They took the family to Cancun to celebrate. By year 3, ParkerTech Solutions had 28 employees and a real office in downtown Portland. Our flagship product, ParkerConnect, was gaining traction in the financial services sector for its intuitive design and powerful integration capabilities. We were profitable, growing, and I was reinvesting everything into expansion. At Thanksgiving, my uncle asked about my company. Before I could answer, my father interjected. "It's a small software thing. Nothing like Wallace's son's law practice. He just made partner." My mother patted my hand sympathetically, then asked Megan about her latest job interview at a prestigious marketing agency. I stopped sharing my business milestones with my family. Why bother? Success would speak for itself, I decided, focusing instead on building something undeniable. The 5-year mark brought transformational growth to ParkerTech. Our customer base expanded from regional clients to national accounts, with 3 Fortune 500 companies implementing our software across their organizations. We launched 2 additional products, Parker Analytics and Parker Secure, creating an ecosystem that addressed multiple business needs. Our team grew to 75 employees across development, sales, customer success, and operations. The industry took notice. Tech Forward magazine named me to their 40 Under 40 list. We won innovation awards at 2 major conferences. Venture capitalists began circling, sensing opportunity. After careful consideration, I accepted our first major investment round, $15 million for a 12% stake, valuing ParkerTech at $125 million. The capital allowed us to accelerate product development and expand our sales team nationally. My phone rang the evening after the funding news hit the business press. "Ethan, why didn't you tell us?" My mother's voice carried an unfamiliar tone, excitement mixed with something else. Pride? No. Interest. About what? I asked, though I knew. The investment. The Portland Business Journal says your company is worth over $100 million. My father joined the call. "We always knew you had potential, son. You should come to dinner Sunday and tell us all about it." I agreed, surprised by their sudden enthusiasm. When I arrived at their home that weekend, Megan was there too, unusually attentive. She'd recently been laid off from her marketing position at a local brewery, her 3rd job that year. "The company sounds amazing, Ethan," she gushed. "I've been following your progress online. The work you're doing is so innovative." She'd never once mentioned my company before. Over dessert, Megan cleared her throat. "Actually, I've been thinking about making a career change. Something more stable and meaningful." She glanced at our parents, who nodded encouragingly. "I've always been interested in technology and business development." I nearly choked on my coffee. Megan had shown zero interest in either field throughout her life. "With my marketing background and communication skills, I could be a real asset to a growing company like yours," she continued. "I've been thinking about applying to ParkerTech." My parents beamed. "Wouldn't that be wonderful?" my mother exclaimed. "The Parker siblings taking on the business world together. Your sister has such natural leadership abilities," my father added. "She could really help take things to the next level." I hesitated. Megan had no relevant experience or demonstrated interest in our industry. Her resume showed a pattern of short-term positions and creative differences with management. But refusing would create family drama I didn't need while scaling the company. "We could find something in marketing," I conceded reluctantly. "Entry level, of course." "You'd report to Alicia, our CMO, like any other new hire." Megan's smile tightened. "I was thinking more of a director-level position. With my experience." "Let's start where your experience actually matches," I interrupted gently. "You can grow from there based on performance, like everyone else." My parents exchanged glances. "Don't underestimate your sister," my father said. "She has exceptional people skills." 3 weeks later, Megan joined ParkerTech as a marketing specialist. Alicia, our CMO, was professional but concerned. "Are you sure about this?" she asked privately. "Family hires can complicate things." I assured her that Megan would receive no special treatment. How naive I was. Within months, problems emerged. Megan missed deadlines but charmed her way out of consequences. She took credit for team successes while deflecting failures. Most concerning, she began positioning herself as my right hand in conversations with clients and partners, implying authority she didn't possess. At family gatherings, my parents increasingly spotlighted Megan's role at ParkerTech. Megan was telling us about the new marketing campaign she developed. My mother announced at a family barbecue, though the campaign had been Alicia's creation with minimal input from Megan. The Parker siblings make quite the team, my father told relatives. Ethan handles the technical side, while Megan brings the vision and people skills. I corrected these mischaracterizations initially, but eventually stopped. Why create conflict? The company was thriving despite these annoyances. Then came the client presentation incident. I arrived early to an important meeting with a potential major client to find Megan already there, presenting herself as co-founder and marketing director. When I introduced myself as the founder and CEO, the confusion on the clients' faces was evident. "Megan, a word please," I said, stepping into the hallway. "What's wrong?" she asked innocently. "You're not a co-founder or a director. Why would you misrepresent yourself?" She shrugged. "It's easier than explaining my actual role. Besides, we're family. Isn't the company kind of a family business by definition?" "No, it's not," I stated firmly. "It's a professional organization with clear roles and responsibilities. This can't happen again." She agreed cheerfully, but the damage was done. The clients signed with a competitor. When I mentioned the incident to my parents, seeking their help in establishing boundaries, their response stunned me. "Maybe Megan deserves more recognition," my mother suggested. "She's really committed to the company's success." After all, my father added, leadership isn't just about who started something. It's about who has the presence and charisma to take it forward. The implication was clear. In their eyes, Megan possessed qualities I lacked, qualities they valued more than the vision, risk, and work I'd invested in building ParkerTech from nothing. I drove home that night with a growing sense of unease. Something had shifted, but I couldn't yet see the full picture forming against me. ParkerTech's momentum continued unabated despite the family complications. We crossed the $100 million valuation threshold after winning several enterprise contracts that positioned our software as essential infrastructure for financial services companies. Our team expanded to over 200 employees across 3 offices. Industry analysts named us one to watch in the competitive business software sector. I outlined an ambitious 5-year vision to the board: international expansion, strategic acquisitions of complementary technologies, and an eventual IPO that could value the company at over $500 million. The board unanimously approved, impressed by our consistent execution and growth trajectory. Privately, I began feeling the weight of leadership, the responsibility for hundreds of livelihoods, the pressure to maintain our growth curve, the constant need to innovate ahead of larger competitors. These concerns I kept to myself, maintaining the confident facade expected of a CEO. Megan, meanwhile, had been promoted to marketing manager, a legitimate advancement based on her performance, which had improved after our confrontation. Or so I thought. The first sign of trouble came from Ryan, our chief technology officer and my longest-serving executive. He caught me after a leadership meeting, his expression troubled. "Do you have a minute? Something strange happened yesterday." We stepped into my office, where he recounted being approached by Megan for a private lunch. She asked detailed questions about our product roadmap and intellectual property protections, he explained. Then she started suggesting the company might benefit from fresh leadership perspectives as we scale. What exactly did she mean by that? I asked, unease settling in my stomach. She implied the board was discussing leadership evolution, and that she was being groomed for an expanded role. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. She hinted that anyone aligned with the new direction would be valued in the restructured organization. I thanked him for his loyalty and discretion, assuring him no such plans existed. But the conversation left me deeply unsettled. Why would Megan discuss board matters she had no access to? Why imply leadership changes no one had proposed? The next day, I arrived at the office earlier than usual and noticed Megan leaving a conference room, looking flustered at my unexpected appearance. Through the glass wall, I saw Gregory Matthews, one of our venture capital board members, gathering his papers. Early meeting? I asked casually when we passed in the hallway. Just catching up with Greg about marketing initiatives. She replied quickly. Nothing important. I nodded, but alarm bells rang. Board members didn't typically take private meetings with marketing managers, especially without the CMO present. That evening, I called Matthews directly, framing my inquiry as routine follow-up. Megan had some interesting perspectives on the company's positioning, he said vaguely. Your parents reached out suggesting we get better acquainted with her vision. They speak very highly of her leadership potential. My parents? They had no official connection to ParkerTech. Why were they arranging meetings between my sister and board members? The following Sunday dinner confirmed my growing suspicions. My father steered the conversation toward ParkerTech's future. The company's reaching a critical phase, he observed. Growing from founder-led to professionally managed is where most tech companies stumble. Good thing ParkerTech is already professionally managed, I replied, watching his reaction. My mother jumped in. What your father means is that different stages require different skills. Your technical background was perfect for the startup phase, but now that it's a real company. A real company? I echoed. It's been a real company from day one. Of course it has, dear, she soothed. But Megan was mentioning how the corporate structure might need reimagining as you scale globally. Her organizational psychology coursework gives her unique insight. Megan had taken exactly one psychology elective in college, which she nearly failed. The board seems quite impressed with her, my father added. Gregory Matthews mentioned she has the executive presence the company needs for its next chapter. The pieces clicked into place. This wasn't spontaneous. It was coordinated. My parents, who dismissed my company for years, were now orchestrating a power shift to Megan. That night, I accessed the company email server, something I'd never done before, and searched Megan's communications. What I found confirmed everything. Dozens of exchanges with board members, arranged by my parents, positioning Megan as the visionary behind ParkerTech's success. Carefully crafted narratives minimizing my contributions while emphasizing my technical limitations. Suggestions that investors would benefit from more polished leadership as we approached potential IPO. The betrayal cut deep. Not just Megan's ambition, that I could understand, but my parents' active role in undermining me. The company they'd dismissed as a risky waste of time, the sacrifices they'd never acknowledged, the success they'd minimized until it became valuable enough to covet. The next morning, I asked Megan to meet privately. I know about the meetings with board members, I said calmly. And the emails. Her expression flickered between surprise and defiance before settling on practiced innocence. I'm just trying to contribute. The company's success matters to me too. By suggesting I should be replaced? By having Mom and Dad lobby the board behind my back? That's not what's happening, she insisted, though her eyes darted away. We're just ensuring the company has the right leadership structure for growth. You're brilliant with product, Ethan, but everyone knows you're uncomfortable with the public-facing aspects of leadership. Everyone? Or you and our parents? She sighed with rehearsed patience. This isn't personal. It's about what's best for the company's future. You'd still have an important role, Chief Technology Officer or something similarly suitable. The condescension in her tone, as if she were granting me a generous concession in the company I'd built, left me speechless. Think about it, she continued, rising to leave. Change is coming whether you embrace it or not. Better to be part of shaping it than resisting the inevitable. After she left, I called Wesley Bennett, my personal attorney since ParkerTech's founding. We need to activate Protocol Redwood, I told him, referring to contingency plans we'd established years earlier. plans I'd hoped never to need. That afternoon, my parents called, their tone conciliatory. We should discuss the company's future trajectory. My father began diplomatically. As a family. Let's do that, I agreed. At the anniversary gala next week. Seems an appropriate time to address succession planning, doesn't it? My mother sounded relieved. Wonderful! We'll make it a celebration of the next chapter. Little did they know what that chapter would actually contain. The 10th anniversary gala for ParkerTech Solutions transformed our headquarters atrium into an elegant venue celebrating a decade of innovation. Crystal chandeliers hung above cocktail tables draped in midnight blue. Digital displays showcased our journey from garage startup to industry leader. 200 guests circulated, employees, clients, investors, and industry partners, all raising glasses to our collective success. I moved through the crowd in my tailored navy suit, exchanging handshakes and gratitude with the team that had built ParkerTech alongside me. Jackson, my first hire, now engineering director. Alicia, our brilliant CMO who'd established our brand identity. Ryan, the loyal CTO who'd warned me of trouble. These relationships, built on mutual respect, shared struggle, and genuine appreciation, formed the true foundation of our success. My parents arrived fashionably late, my father distinguished in a tuxedo, my mother elegant in a designer gown. They'd never attended a company function before, despite numerous invitations over the years. Tonight they worked the room like politicians, introducing themselves to board members and executives as Ethan and Megan's parents, with proud smiles that never quite reached their eyes. Megan sparkled in an emerald dress, moving confidently among people who outranked her significantly. She positioned herself near the stage, occasionally glancing at our parents with barely concealed anticipation. At precisely 9 o'clock, I approached the podium for my planned address. The room quieted as I surveyed the faces before me, some I'd known for a decade, others who joined our journey more recently. All had contributed to building something remarkable. 10 years ago, I began. ParkerTech Solutions existed only as lines of code on a laptop and ambitious plans in a notebook. Today, we stand as an industry leader with technology that powers thousands of businesses worldwide. That transformation didn't happen by accident or individual genius. It happened through collective effort, shared vision, and unwavering commitment from everyone in this room. I highlighted key milestones and recognized team achievements, acknowledging the challenges we'd overcome together. Then I outlined our vision for the future: international expansion, new product lines, and eventually taking the company public. The next decade of ParkerTech will dwarf what we've already accomplished, I concluded. I couldn't be more excited to build that future with all of you. Thank you for your trust, your talent, and your tireless dedication. Applause filled the room as I stepped away from the microphone. According to the program, dinner service would begin next, followed by an awards ceremony for long-serving employees. Instead, my father strode purposefully toward the stage. My mother followed, champagne flute in hand. Neither had been scheduled to speak. If I could have everyone's attention for a special announcement. My father's authoritative voice silenced the room. He gestured for Megan to join them on stage. She ascended with practiced poise, taking position between our parents. My father continued. This milestone presents the perfect opportunity to announce an exciting evolution for ParkerTech Solutions. The board has been in discussions about the company's leadership needs as it enters its next growth phase. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Board members exchanged confused glances. No such discussions had occurred in official meetings. Effective immediately, my father announced with a broad smile. Megan Parker will assume the role of Chief Executive Officer, bringing fresh vision and leadership to take ParkerTech to unprecedented heights. The room fell silent. Employees froze mid-conversation, glasses suspended in air. Investors leaned forward, brows furrowed in confusion. My mother raised her glass. To Megan Parker, ParkerTech's new CEO. A smattering of uncertain applause followed. Most eyes turned to me, standing at the side of the room, searching my expression for confirmation or denial. I maintained careful neutrality, even as adrenaline surged through my body. This was more brazen than I'd anticipated, announcing a CEO change that the board hadn't approved, at a company event, without any transition plan. My father turned toward me, his expression a mixture of triumph and challenge. Ethan will, of course, remain involved in a technical capacity. After all, that's always been his strength. He chuckled indulgently. He's been the builder. Now Megan will be the leader who takes his creation forward. The distinction, builder versus leader, landed like a slap. The dismissal of everything beyond code I'd contributed, vision, strategy, client relationships, team building, financial stewardship, reduced to just the builder. Megan approached the microphone, radiating rehearsed humility. I'm honored to accept this responsibility. While I can never match my brother's technical brilliance, I bring complementary skills that ParkerTech needs for its next chapter. Together, we'll build on his foundation to create something truly extraordinary. The careful positioning was masterful, acknowledging my contribution while relegating it to the past tense. Presenting herself as the completion of something I'd merely started. Board member Elizabeth Chin stood abruptly. I wasn't aware of any CEO transition plans being finalized, she stated, looking directly at me. Before I could respond, my father interjected smoothly. The family has been in discussions with key investors. The formal board vote is a technicality that will follow shortly. Gregory Matthews, the board member Megan had been privately meeting with, nodded almost imperceptibly. The conspiracy had run deeper than I'd realized. For 20 excruciating minutes, I watched Megan outline her vision for ParkerTech, a vision suspiciously similar to plans I'd presented to the board months earlier. She accepted congratulations from confused well-wishers while my parents beamed proudly beside her. Employees approached me with questioning looks, which I answered only with reassuring nods. Everything's under control, I murmured to Ryan when he asked if he should intervene. When the formal program concluded, I approached my family, now holding court near the main display showcasing ParkerTech's history, a history being rewritten before my eyes. Interesting announcement, I said quietly. The board might have appreciated being properly consulted. My father clapped my shoulder condescendingly. Don't be difficult, Ethan. This transition is best for everyone. You can focus on what you enjoy, the technical side, without the pressures of executive leadership. We're still family, my mother added, as if that explained everything. This way, both our children benefit from the company's success. Megan met my gaze, challenge beneath her smile. I hope you'll support me through the transition. Your input will be valuable as I assume leadership. I studied each of their faces, my father's authoritative certainty, my mother's practiced concern, Megan's triumphant composure. They genuinely believed they'd succeeded, that I would accept this public humiliation and corporate theft without resistance. Of course, I replied simply. We should meet tomorrow to discuss next steps. Relief washed over their features. They'd expected argument, anger, perhaps a scene. My calm acceptance disarmed them completely. As I drove home that night, the city lights blurred through my windshield. The betrayal cut deep, not just professionally but personally. My own family had conspired to take what I'd built, dismissing a decade of sacrifice and achievement. But beneath the hurt, another emotion surfaced: clarity. I'd spent years seeking approval and recognition from people incapable of giving it. People who viewed my success not as something to celebrate but something to acquire. That clarity brought strange peace. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply resolved. In my home office, I opened my laptop and sent a single email to Wesley Bennett. Execute Protocol Redwood. Full implementation. Meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. His response came within minutes. Understood. Everything is prepared. See you at 9. I slept surprisingly well that night, perhaps better than I had in years. Morning sunlight streamed through my office windows as Wesley Bennett spread documents across the conference table. At 58, with silver temples and penetrating eyes, Wesley projected the gravitas of an attorney who'd seen every corporate maneuver imaginable. He'd been with me since I'd drafted ParkerTech's first client contract at my kitchen table. "They really did it," he remarked, reviewing recordings of the previous night's announcement. "Even after our warnings." "They did," I confirmed. "More aggressively than anticipated." Wesley nodded, unsurprised. "Arrogance makes people careless. Let's review Protocol Redwood." Protocol Redwood wasn't a spontaneous reaction. It was a contingency plan developed 3 years earlier when I'd first noticed concerning patterns in my family's behavior. Wesley had initially called me paranoid, but agreed that proper protections were reasonable for any founder. We'd refined the strategy annually, hoping it would remain theoretical. "The corporate structure is our primary advantage," Wesley began, highlighting key documents. ParkerTech Solutions, the operating company everyone knows, doesn't actually own its core intellectual property. That belongs to Redwood Innovations, your separate holding company. This deliberate separation had been established during our first financing round. ParkerTech licensed the technology from Redwood through agreements that appeared standard to casual observers but contained critical termination provisions. All core patents, algorithms, and proprietary code belong to Redwood, which you solely control, Wesley continued. ParkerTech essentially operates the technology but doesn't own it. I'd structured this arrangement transparently with the board, positioning it as protection against hostile takeovers from larger competitors. The board had agreed, seeing it as prudent industry practice rather than preparation for internal conflict. "What about employee contracts?" I asked. Wesley smiled slightly. "Equally well structured. Key technical staff have dual employment agreements. Their primary relationship is with Redwood Innovations, loaned to ParkerTech for implementation purposes. If triggered, their obligations follow the intellectual property to Redwood." I nodded, reviewing the list of 15 critical employees, including Jackson and Ryan, who had signed these dual contracts, often without recognizing their significance beyond standard legal formalities. "And the clients?" "Service agreements are with ParkerTech, but licensing terms specify that authorized deployment comes from Redwood. If Redwood terminates ParkerTech's license, client relationships revert to Redwood to ensure service continuity." The elegance of the structure wasn't in hidden clauses or legal trickery. Everything had been documented properly, reviewed by corporate counsel, and disclosed in appropriate filings. The protection lay in complexity and foresight that my parents and sister, with their limited understanding of technology businesses, wouldn't comprehend until too late. "What about Matthews?" I asked, referring to the board member who'd apparently allied with my family. "His venture fund's investment agreement contains anti-interference provisions," Wesley explained. "By privately conspiring with your family to change management without proper board process, he's potentially violated fiduciary duties. We've documented his meetings with Megan and your parents." I activated my phone's recording app as Wesley outlined our immediate actions. First, formal notification to the board that Redwood Innovations was reviewing its licensing arrangement with ParkerTech due to governance concerns. Second, confidential briefing for key technical staff about their employment status and potential transition. Third, preparatory communications to major clients, positioned as regulatory compliance updates rather than alarming revelations. Finally, documentation of Megan's professional limitations to demonstrate her unsuitability for the CEO role she'd been inappropriately given. "The beauty of Protocol Redwood," Wesley concluded, "isn't that it destroys ParkerTech. It's that it gives you leverage to restore proper governance while minimizing disruption to employees and clients." I took a deep breath. "Let's make the calls." First, I called Ryan, my CTO. He arrived within 30 minutes, unsurprised by the situation. "I've been waiting for something like this," he admitted. "After Megan started approaching technical team members about reporting structures, I briefed him on the protocol, including his dual employment status. Rather than feeling manipulated, he seemed relieved. "You built safeguards rather than traps," he observed. "This protects the team and technology regardless of who's making power plays." Ryan identified the 14 other key technical staff for immediate briefing. By noon, they'd all been confidentially informed of their status, sworn to temporary secrecy, and reassured about their futures regardless of outcome. Next came Jackson, now engineering director, whose loyalty dated back to working above the Thai restaurant. "About damn time," was his only comment when I explained the situation. "That announcement last night was straight-up theft." By 3 o'clock, we'd completed documentation of Megan's professional performance issues, missed deadlines, misrepresentations to clients, inappropriate attempts to change reporting structures, and taking credit for others' work. We included statements from her actual supervisors and affected team members, creating a factual record rather than personal attacks. At 4, Wesley had prepared a comprehensive briefing for the board, documenting the improper process by which the CEO transition had been announced without board approval, violating company bylaws and fiduciary responsibilities. The final piece came at 5, a forensic analysis of company performance under my leadership, consistent growth, strategic acquisitions, product innovation, and financial discipline. This wasn't self-promotion but objective demonstration of successful stewardship. My phone rang repeatedly throughout the day. My parents, Megan, Matthews. I let each call go to voicemail, buying time while Protocol Redwood activated. At 6, Wesley departed with instructions to file formal notifications with the board first thing tomorrow. I remained in my office, reviewing contingency details, when my direct line rang again. This time I answered. "Ethan Parker." "Ethan." Elizabeth Chen's voice carried controlled urgency. As lead independent director, she held significant influence on the board. "I've been trying to reach you all day. What happened last night was completely inappropriate and unauthorized." "I'm aware," I replied calmly. "Several board members are concerned about your parents' involvement and this supposed CEO transition that was never discussed in any official capacity. Matthews is being evasive about his role." "I appreciate that concern," I said. "You'll receive comprehensive documentation tomorrow morning addressing everything." "Will you be taking legal action?" she asked directly. "That depends entirely on what happens next," I answered. "My priority is protecting the company, its employees, and its clients from improper interference. I've established mechanisms to ensure that protection." Her tone shifted slightly. "What kind of mechanisms?" "Let's discuss that tomorrow at the emergency board meeting I'll be requesting. I suggest 9 a.m. After hanging up, I finally checked my voicemails. My father, imperious. "Ethan, your absence today is unprofessional. Megan needs your cooperation for a smooth transition." My mother, conciliatory. "Darling, I know last night was a surprise, but this is best for everyone. Call us back so we can discuss your new role." Megan, attempting authority. "As CEO, I'm directing you to meet with me immediately to discuss technology transfer protocols and reporting structures." Matthews, nervous. "Parker, we should talk about next steps. Some misunderstandings may have occurred." I deleted each message without response. Their world was already crumbling, they just didn't know it yet. At 8 the next morning, Wesley delivered formal notifications to all board members documenting the improper governance, the intellectual property structure, and the contingency provisions now in preliminary activation. By 8:30, my phone exploded with messages. At 9, I walked into the emergency board meeting I'd requested, carrying the final piece of Protocol Redwood, my resignation letter as CEO of ParkerTech Solutions, effective immediately, and my simultaneous withdrawal of Redwood Innovations technology licenses if proper governance wasn't restored within 24 hours. Sometimes winning doesn't require fighting. It requires understanding the true nature of your power and being prepared to use it precisely when needed. The ParkerTech boardroom fell silent as I placed my conditional resignation letter on the polished mahogany table. 9 board members sat rigidly in their chairs, expressions ranging from shock to calculation to grim understanding. My parents and Megan had been summoned but hadn't yet arrived. "Before we begin," I said calmly, "I want to emphasize that every action I've taken and will take prioritizes the company's welfare, our employees' security, and our clients' uninterrupted service. Elizabeth Chen nodded. The board recognizes your consistent commitment to those principles, Ethan. That's why last night's unauthorized announcement was so concerning. Unauthorized is an understatement, remarked Harold Davidson, representing our largest institutional investor. It was corporate governance malpractice. Gregory Matthews shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. As the board member who'd apparently conspired with my family, his position had become precarious overnight. The documentation you've received outlines 3 critical facts, I continued. First, the announcement of management changes occurred without board knowledge or approval, violating company bylaws. Second, the designated successor lacks qualifications for the position and has a documented history of performance issues. Third, and most importantly, ParkerTech Solutions does not own its core intellectual property. I activated the presentation screen, displaying the corporate structure diagram Wesley had prepared. Redwood Innovations, which I solely control, owns all patents, algorithms, and proprietary code that power ParkerTech's products. This structure was established with board approval during our first financing round as protection against hostile takeovers. All relevant disclosures were filed and acknowledged. Harold leaned forward, studying the diagram. I remember approving this structure, but I didn't fully appreciate its implications until today. Few people did, I acknowledged. The arrangement seemed like standard industry practice for technology protection. Its significance only becomes apparent in situations like this. The boardroom door opened. My parents entered first, my father radiating indignation, my mother attempting dignified concern. Megan followed, wearing a conservative business suit and professional expression that faltered when she saw me at the head of the table. What's the meaning of this emergency meeting? My father demanded. Megan's transition announcement was already made public. Elizabeth Chen's response was ice cold. Mr. Parker, you have no standing to make demands in this boardroom. You're present as a courtesy because of your relationship to actual stakeholders. My father blinked, and used to having his authority questioned. We're here representing family interests in the company. You have no formal interests in this company, Harold stated flatly. You're neither shareholders, board members, nor executives. Your presence at yesterday's unauthorized announcement created significant corporate governance issues this board must now address. My mother attempted a softer approach. There seems to be some confusion. We were simply supporting a planned leadership transition that makes strategic sense for everyone. No such transition was planned, approved, or even discussed by this board, Elizabeth countered. Now please take seats so we can proceed. Once they were seated, I resumed my presentation. As outlined in the materials before you, Redwood Innovations has formally notified ParkerTech Solutions that due to governance concerns, it's reviewing all technology licensing arrangements between our entities. My father's face darkened. What licensing arrangements? This is your company. Actually, it isn't, I replied evenly. Not in the way you think. I directed their attention to the screen, where Wesley had prepared a simplified explanation of the corporate structure and intellectual property ownership. ParkerTech Solutions, the operating company everyone recognizes, functions through exclusive licenses from Redwood Innovations, which owns all core technology. This structure has been in place for 7 years, properly documented and disclosed. The color drained from my father's face as understanding dawned. My mother glanced between us in confusion. Megan stared at the diagram, her marketing background insufficient to fully grasp its implications. This is just legal maneuvering, my father blustered. The company is the business, the clients, the revenue stream. Harold Davidson, whose investment fund managed billions in technology assets, laughed without humor. Richard, in software companies, the intellectual property is the business. Without it, ParkerTech is essentially an empty shell, a client list with nothing to deliver. Precisely, I confirmed. If Redwood Innovations terminates ParkerTech's license, the company would immediately lose the ability to operate its products, fulfill client obligations, or generate revenue. My mother's voice wavered. You wouldn't do that to your own sister? To your family? This isn't about family dynamics. Elizabeth interjected before I could respond. This is about proper corporate governance and fiduciary responsibility. The situation Mr. Parker has outlined represents an existential threat to this company's viability. Megan finally spoke, her marketing instincts shifting to damage control. I'm sure we can work through these technical details. The important thing is presenting a united front to employees and clients. The documentation also addresses staff continuity. I noted, advancing to the next slide. 15 key technical employees, including our CTO and engineering director, have dual employment agreements. Their primary relationship is with Redwood Innovations, loaned to ParkerTech for implementation purposes. My father's complexion went from pale to ashen. You're saying you can take the technology and the people who understand it? In the event of license termination, yes. This structure ensures service continuity for clients regardless of corporate changes. Matthews, silent until now, attempted damage control. This seems unnecessarily adversarial. Surely we can find middle ground that addresses everyone's concerns. The middle ground is simple, I replied. The board exercises its proper governance function, addressing the unauthorized announcements and leadership manipulation attempts. Once proper governance is restored, Redwood has no reason to terminate licensing arrangements. Elizabeth directed a pointed look at Matthews. Gregory, given your apparent involvement in these unauthorized discussions, the board may need to review your continued participation. Matthews' professional composure cracked. I was approached by the Parkers about potential leadership evolution. I never authorized or endorsed any public announcement. Your emails to Megan suggest otherwise, I noted quietly. Those have also been provided to the board. The room fell silent as board members processed the full implications. My father stared at the table, legal mind finally comprehending the checkmate position. My mother looked bewildered, unable to understand how her social machinations had led to this outcome. Megan's expression cycled between disbelief and calculation, seeking some angle to salvage her ambitions. Harold Davidson broke the silence. The board needs to deliberate on immediate actions to address this situation. I move that we temporarily reinstate Ethan as CEO, nullify all unauthorized announcements, and conduct a full governance review. Elizabeth seconded the motion. Further, I move that we establish an independent committee to review board member conduct during this episode. Matthews paled at the implicit threat to his position. The vote was nearly unanimous, with Matthews abstaining and all other members supporting immediate action to restore proper governance. Given these resolutions, Elizabeth continued, Ethan, what is Redwood's position regarding the technology licenses? Assuming these resolutions are implemented immediately and in good faith, Redwood sees no reason to modify existing arrangements. I replied. Our priority remains business continuity for clients and employees. The board recessed briefly to draft formal statements reversing the unauthorized announcements. During this break, my father approached me, his expression a mixture of anger and grudging respect. You outmaneuvered us, he admitted quietly. A contingency structure I would have recommended to my own clients. I learned from watching you, I replied. Just not the lesson you intended to teach. When the board reconvened, they presented a comprehensive plan, immediate public clarification about company leadership, governance review procedures, and client communication strategies. As the meeting concluded, Megan requested a moment to address the board. Looking considerably subdued, she acknowledged her inappropriate actions and offered her resignation, effective immediately. The performance issues documented in my presentation had made her position untenable regardless. I misjudged the situation badly, she conceded, avoiding my gaze. I apologize to the board and to my brother for the disruption this has caused. The board accepted her resignation, adding professional outplacement support as a compassionate gesture despite the circumstances. As attendees filed out, my mother lingered, tears in her eyes. We thought we were helping, she whispered. We never meant to hurt you. I studied her face, searching for genuine understanding rather than mere regret at being thwarted. "You never saw what I built," I said finally. "You only saw something valuable to take." Her flinch told me the assessment had landed. She left without further comment, my father guiding her with a hand that trembled slightly, the confident attorney now navigating unfamiliar territory of complete defeat. Elizabeth approached as the room emptied. "I've worked with many founders, Ethan, but I've never seen contingency planning executed with such precision. It protected the company without destroying it." "That was always the goal," I replied. "Protection, not retribution." She nodded thoughtfully. "The board will fully support your leadership after this. You've more than proven your capabilities. But I have to ask, will you stay?" After everything that's happened? It was the question I'd been asking myself since activating Protocol Redwood. Did I want to remain at the helm of ParkerTech after such profound betrayal? Did the company still represent my vision and values, or had this episode fundamentally changed my relationship with my creation? "I'll stay," I decided aloud. Not because I need validation, but because there's still work to do. The company deserves leadership that puts its interests first. Elizabeth smiled with genuine relief. "That's exactly why you're the right person for the role." As I gathered my materials, I caught a glimpse through the glass wall of my parents and Megan leaving the building, shoulders slumped in defeat. The sight brought no satisfaction, only a sense of clarity. Family relationships could be rebuilt with time and effort, but they would never again be permitted to threaten what I'd built. The company would move forward under governance structures even stronger than before. And I would continue leading it, not to prove anything to my family, but because the vision had always been mine to execute. Sometimes victory isn't about winning fights. It's about making the right preparations so the fight becomes unnecessary. 6 months after the attempted coup, ParkerTech Solutions had not only stabilized but accelerated its growth trajectory. The governance crisis, managed with transparency and decisive action, ultimately strengthened the company's foundation. Our client retention rate remained above 98%, and employee turnover actually decreased below industry averages, a testament to how we'd handled the transition. My return as CEO came with structural changes designed to prevent future governance issues. The board implemented formal succession planning protocols, expanded independent director representation, and established ethics guidelines specifically addressing conflicts of interest. Most significantly, we created a corporate structure committee with oversight of the relationship between ParkerTech and Redwood Innovations, ensuring proper maintenance of the protective framework while preventing its potential misuse. These changes weren't about consolidating my power, but distributing it appropriately, creating checks and balances that would outlast any individual, including me. The company needed to be resilient against both external threats and internal manipulations, regardless of their source. The professional fallout for those involved varied. Gregory Matthews resigned from the board, his reputation in venture capital circles diminished by his poor judgment. Several institutional investors quietly removed him from involvement with their technology portfolios, the whispered explanation being governance concerns. As for my family, the aftermath proved more complicated. My father withdrew to lick his wounds, his professional pride wounded more deeply than he would admit. After decades of seeing himself as the strategic mastermind of the family, being outmaneuvered by his son, whom he'd long underestimated, forced painful self-reflection. We spoke infrequently during those first months, our conversations stilted and focused on neutral topics. My mother, ever the relationship manager, made tentative peace offerings, birthday cards, occasional texts checking in, invitations to family events I mostly declined. Her approaches carried undertones of confusion rather than genuine understanding. She still couldn't quite comprehend why I had taken their actions so seriously or responded so definitively. Megan's journey proved most surprising. After her resignation, she disappeared to a wellness retreat in Arizona, emerging 3 weeks later with unexpected clarity. She requested a meeting at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown far removed from ParkerTech's offices. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she began, stirring her latte without meeting my eyes. About patterns and expectations and how I've been living someone else's vision of my life. I listened silently, unsure where this was heading. Mom and Dad always positioned me as the charming one, the people person, the natural leader, she continued. They created this narrative that you were the technical support and I was the star. I never questioned it because it felt good to be the special one. She finally looked up. But I was miserable at ParkerTech, Ethan. Every day was stressful because I was pretending to understand things beyond my knowledge. I was constantly afraid of being exposed as a fraud. Her candor surprised me. Then why push for the CEO position? Because that's what Mom and Dad wanted. They saw your success and decided it should be the family's success, with me as the public face. She shook her head. It was never my dream. I just didn't have the courage to find my own. This vulnerability, so different from the competitive sister I'd known, shifted something between us. Not forgiveness exactly, but a pathway toward understanding. What will you do now? I asked. I've enrolled in a teaching credential program, she replied, a genuine smile emerging. I've been volunteering with a literacy nonprofit, and it feels right in a way marketing never did. Like I'm finally using my communication skills for something meaningful. We parted with tentative plans to meet again, neither of us certain of our future relationship, but both recognizing its evolution towards something potentially healthier. As for ParkerTech, the company continued expanding its market position. We successfully launched international operations in Europe and Asia, with careful attention to regional data sovereignty requirements, complex regulatory territory I navigated personally, belying my father's dismissal of my leadership capabilities beyond technical matters. 6 months became a year. The anniversary of the attempted coup passed without commemoration but not without reflection. I found myself working late that evening, reviewing acquisition proposals for a complementary technology company that would expand our analytics capabilities. A knock at my office door revealed Jackson, my first employee and now Chief Innovation Officer after our expanded executive restructuring. Still burning the midnight oil? He asked, dropping into the chair across from my desk. Some things never change. I smiled, setting aside the acquisition documents. Just finishing up. What brings you here so late? Wanted to check on you. 1 year ago today was the gala. You remembered. He shrugged. Hard to forget watching your family try to steal your company. But really, I wanted to say something. Go ahead. You had every right to burn it all down, he said seriously. You could have terminated the licenses, taken the key staff, and started over without the baggage. We would have followed you. I nodded, acknowledging the truth in his assessment. But you didn't, he continued. You found a solution that protected the company, the employees, the clients, even while standing your ground. That's why people around here would walk through walls for you. Not because you're some coding genius, but because you put the mission above ego. His words touched something deeper than professional validation. They represented recognition of choices made from character rather than circumstance, the difference between being respected and being valued. Thank you, I said simply. That means a lot. After Jackson left, I stood at my office window overlooking the city. Portland's lights shimmered through light rain, landmarks I'd watched from progressively higher floors as ParkerTech grew from startup to industry leader. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. Your mother and I would like to meet for dinner next week. Your choice of restaurant. This wasn't the first such invitation, but something felt different about my reaction to it. The anger that had once flared at any contact from my parents had gradually subsided to a dull wariness, and now seemed to be evolving towards something more nuanced. Family relationships exist on a spectrum between unconditional trust and complete estrangement. I'd learned that healthy boundaries could create a middle path, one where reconciliation becomes possible without vulnerability to further harm. I wasn't ready to fully trust my parents again, but perhaps I was ready to begin the conversation. I typed back. Tuesday, 7 p.m. I'll send a restaurant suggestion tomorrow. Setting the phone down, I returned to the acquisition documents with clearer focus. The company had emerged stronger from crisis, and so had I, not through vindication or victory, but through values-based leadership and unwavering commitment to what matters most. The true measure of success isn't what you build or what you earn. It's who you become through challenges that would break someone with less clarity of purpose. By that standard, I'd succeeded beyond anything my parents could recognize or my sister could emulate. That knowledge provided something more valuable than their approval ever could, the quiet confidence of self-defined worth. As I gathered my things to leave for the night, I smiled at the lesson that had emerged from betrayal. Sometimes the people who should support you the most will understand you the least. And sometimes, the most profound success comes not from proving them wrong, but from no longer needing to prove anything at all. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted, only to find greater strength on the other side? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of resilient strivers. Remember, sometimes the greatest challenges reveal your true capabilities. And the greatest revenge is living well. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you navigate your own path through difficult times with both wisdom and grace.